Good afternoon. It's not afternoon yet. It's 11:13 when I started recording this, but it'll be afternoon by the time you see it. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joey, only Caribou Weather Dude up here in Wells, British Columbia, your source for British Columbia weather and wilderness news. That is me, of course, up here in Wells, BC, 3,935 feet above sea level at the house. Well, today the atmospheric river does arrive on the coast. I did promise everybody that they'd get at least half a nice weekend, and for a lot of you, you did. And we're at Saturday now, and yeah, maybe not even half. Okay, I get it. For some of you, you didn't get much of a good weekend at all. But for a lot of the province, you're getting that half a nice weekend. You're getting some warm weather still. That's going to start cutting out soon. And the temperatures will dive down, particularly at nighttime in the coming week, as we come closer and closer into the middle of October. And lots of rainfall. There is some snow coming down on the coast and things like that. Look for the mountains. I think a little bit of rain is going to come down even to the south for a change. So this is good news on the bad news show. There it is. This is bad news. My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen. Get on! Wow. I'll watch the video later. Ain't dry mopping this. There's a brand new episode up at communicationspodcast.ca, the sponsors of this forecast for a little while longer. I'm a big fan of this podcast. This week's episode, Avoiding Panic, Learning from Planning and Preparedness in Earthquake and Tsunami Zones, plus some dark humor with Tim Conrad and his guest Dorrit Mason. Tim Conrad being one of the faces of communication often in some of the bigger wildfire events that have happened. He's an information officer when these things kind of hit the fan. So do check out communicationspodcast.ca. Great podcast that'll teach you lots about emergency preparation management and things like that in the province of British Columbia and beyond. Still a little bit sick. I've had the man cold now for like 11 days and I am grumpy about it. Okay, like last night I went to bed at 9 and sweated in my bed and I don't understand it. 11 days, COVID negative. Now, I had tuberculosis when I was young. Like seriously, got sick. Spent a year on antibiotics, was in the hospital for a long time, was in quarantine. It was terrible. And sometimes I get this minor cold. I don't get them often. I go a whole year without getting sick sometimes, but sometimes I get this minor cold and I'm just like, and my kids, they're on their second sickness now since they gave me that one. We do have rainfall warnings going up right now on the coast. So the rainfall warning, that's for Kitimat, Terrace, Stewart. 50 millimeters for Stewart and Terrace, up to 100 millimeters in Kitimat. So that's beginning today. A strong Pacific funnel system is approaching the north coast. Rain will begin this morning near Stewart and begin this afternoon near Terrace and Kitimat. This is the arrival of the atmospheric river. Heavy rain will develop as the frontal system pushes inland and is expected tonight and all day on Sunday. This is your strong storm out there, but nothing too alarming, I don't think, for BC. There's somewhat strong gusty winds. That's related. That's going on in the Yukon today. That's a strong funnel system from the Gulf of Alaska will sweep across Alaska and Yukon today. You go a little bit further north up into that's the Dempster Highway up there, 70 kilometer an hour winds with blowing snow going on as well. And that's strong easterly winds, 70 kilometers are occurring in the Richardson Mountains, expected to continue until this evening when the system weakens. What's going on in Saskatchewan? Looks like maybe a little bit of fog advisory there. Go down to Ottawa Valley side there, Quebec, and we got frost may damage some plants and trees and things. That goes all the way in through more or less Montreal and up to St. Lawrence. If you head over to Halifax and south of, we have special weather statement there because there's strong and northwesterly 80 kilometer hour winds this morning, diminishing early this evening. Scattered utility outages are possible. Delays and cancellation of the ferry or services. Bridge restrictions for high-sided vehicles are possible as well. And if you go all the way down to the bottom to where Yarmouth and Wedgeport and things are, they get 90 kilometer gusts there. Digby, Yarmouth, Shelburne counties, more or less the same forecast, but with stronger winds. The 500 millibar animation, that's the jet stream. That's more or less the weather delivery system that we expect. And as you can see, as you get into Tuesday there, especially even southern BC getting slammed through some of that jet stream, right? So that's going to be transporting some of this nastiness out of the Pacific. And it really looks like BC is now in for a prolonged period of just generally unsettled weather. Here's that ridge we're enjoying this weekend. Been pretty nice Monday. Well, see you later. She starts to leave us. And we will see temperatures sort of dive back down as we come onto that north side of that jet stream now. The night was cold here last night simply because I'm very high up in the mountains and there was no cloud cover last night, so we got down below zero here. I do have meteorological station information. I've been sick all week, so I've not put up my new weather station. But I also have new ideas about it now that I know that it will not be very effective at measuring snowfall. In fact, the snow will wreck it. So I'm thinking I'm not going to put it up on the side of the building until the spring. I may put it underneath something for now. So it's still measuring wind speed and direction and temperature and things like that, and humidity in the air. That is coming, new weather station set up here. The old one's still running, but it's not measuring wind very well, and it's really only measuring temperature and humidity right now, unfortunately. So it is thanks to Diggy's Diner here in Wells that I have this new station, and I'm very, very thankful for it, very excited about getting this one up, and we will be, for here on after, once that weather station is running, we'll be all those segments, whenever we go look at the Wells weather station data, we'll be looking and we'll be saying, hey, this brought to you by Diggy's Diner here in Wells. My good friends Curtis and Shannon run. So let's have a look at what's going on continent-wide and relate that to what's happening here in BC. So here's this low pressure system sitting there off the coast of Labrador, and it's connecting in with a lot of that moisture that's come out of the Hurricane Milton from Florida, right? So it's riding this high right here. That's a nice delivery system, that high. When this lower pressure hits that contact, it's got nowhere else to go, so it's sliding up, and there you go, up and around, getting delivered through the bottom tip of Greenland, definitely bringing some of these winds. You can see these tight isobars here. Everything, I try to think about this like you think about a topographical map. When the lines are close together, that means steep. Well, steep in wind speed would mean fast, right? So we got steep winds there, fast winds. You can also see that going on in this big, especially these are very, very tight gradient here. So you go in the backside of this, a very strong storm that's feeding in on the Pacific. This is the weather maker that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the episode, more or less. It's the one that, unfortunately, if you are a ship out there, you are experiencing some very, very nasty winds, and we'll look at that in a second here. So up through Quebec, northern, up through Labrador, the Torn Gap Mountains getting slammed good, northern Quebec getting slammed good, high pressure now dominating. So we've seen that storm more or less run out of the Nunavut area. That's nice. Through the American Midwest, we do have just south of Lake Superior and moving into Lake Michigan area, some unsettled weather there. A little bit of unsettled weather up in Manitoba as well today. Nothing too crazy looks like going on, but still some lingering showers, I'm sure, are possible through there. And here is our amazing storm. It's sucking the cold in and sucking the warm up. You can see this big long tail in behind. That's our atmospheric river, and right now it's aimed up towards maybe getting Hawaii a little bit, but it's aimed up towards Alaska Panhandle. A lot of that nest is moving into the Yukon as well, so that's why we got some wind and blowing snow, and you can see even tight gradients up there, so wind and blowing snow happening in the Dempster Highway north of Dawson City in the Yukon. A good old-fashioned Yukon fall day today. Some of that spilling over in the Northwest Territories, Alaska seeing a lot of that, and I think a lot of that precipitation is getting pushed onto the mountains there and not making it completely through, but nonetheless, so maybe it looks like there's more falling in there than there actually is all I'm saying. Nonetheless, you go to the core of the storm, 962 central low pressure. It's a very low storm. You compare that to 1021 high pressure that's sitting down there by Colorado right now, right? Very, very low pressure, very deep storm. That's a hurricane force low. And for sure, the winds on the backside of this guy will be pushing into hurricane force territory. Well, let's have a look and see if we can find a ship that's floating around out there. At Dutch Harbor on the Aleutian Islands, we got 91 kilometer an hour gusts, 72 steadies. We got 54 steadies from a ship that's lingering out there as well. So some strong winds. If you go a little up further into this part, we got a ship here. We're getting only 22 kilometers an hour. So you can see there's a widening there, the isobar. It's kind of a chill area. One guy getting 40. But we'll go take a look at the BC coast now and see what's actually going on here, because that's what's of interest to us. So as we approach noon hour, we do see, like, say, up by Haida Gwaii, there's a ship there getting 54s. Go a little bit south, we got 67s at airport down there. We got 43. I did just see an 80 not too long ago when I was looking at this beforehand, but that appears to have already been updated and is no longer there, right? So 40s, 43s. We got a ship getting 43 gust out there. Mostly calm if you look into the BC interior. Maybe Williams Lake getting a little bit gusty there for some reason. But otherwise, that's the anomaly in most of BC. Maybe Kamloops as well getting a little bit of a wind there. So something's going on there that's making those places locally windy. But when you go up, have a look at along the BC coast. Oh, there's our weather station, 113 at CWQS. So at that airport there, 113 kilometer gust, 83 kilometer sustained wind. So that's strong as this frontal system going to blast into Haida Gwaii right now. And you can see some of that is already lurched up and over into the BC interior. Although it doesn't look like it's providing a lot of precipitation as it goes. It is knocking temperature down just a little bit up through there. Absolutely. With the cloud cover especially. And you can see no ships are sailing around out there. They're really trying to avoid this storm, it looks like right now. I would be too. This is a very, very strong storm. As you look at satellite, you can see just the incredible structure of it. Here you have your frontal band that's got towering cumulus. You got towering cumulus going on in here. So maybe you could get a flash of lightning or two in some of those guys in there. In here, you have a lot more scatter. Looks like mackerel skies going on, right? So generally giving you that little bit of puffs of convection, but not punching up, right? There's enough dry air in there. So without that moisture content to help drive it further. But on the front side here, very strong. And then you go look up into the Alaska area, you can see some of that is very, very thick cloud cover. It'll be putting a lot of precipitation, especially in the mountains there, and see how much of it can actually bust through. But totally nasty looking day in the Yukon. You're not seeing sun almost anywhere there. So as you can see, yeah, there's broken layers here through the interior, right? Patchy at times, sure. Strong gusts, that's what these upside down music looking notes are. Every line's a 10 knot. Here you got the general flow of motion being pointed by these arrows. Got a bit of a warm front preceding. So again, that's sort of that warm air. That's a symptom of the warm air that's being put up into BC. The stationary high is not moving right now. It's sort of fighting to maintain its position a little bit longer. And we got the cold front moving in, which is now slamming into Haida Gwaii, giving some nasty weather. And we'll look at how that moves throughout the day. As you can see, southern BC still looking pretty good. That high still being squeezed a little bit farther out, but it's still stationary. And we watch as we get into the evening hours, that precipitation will really take over the coastal areas. So you can see why Stewart and Kitimat, Terrace, Haida Gwaii areas that are going to really see the first round of this storm. They're going to get it real good. Freezing line passes down through eastern BC and up into the north where coldest temperatures are. Here's that warm front, different satellite view than we just gave you a minute ago. But that might give you just another little look at that long comma shape that is the mid-latitude cyclone we are facing. And, of course, the tail that is the atmospheric river in behind it. Otherwise, pretty clear through Alberta and southern Ontario looking pretty nice today. But if you're into Quebec and if you're into Manitoba, cloudy. Certainly probably clouding up in the Northwest Territories, even though the precipitation stopped up there. A lot of BC looking pretty nice down south, but you get overcast as you go a little further north. Here's another look at BC. As you can see, maybe a little bit of overcast too in the coast mountains down there up through Vancouver Island. But that central interior looking really nice, southern interior looking really nice. So everywhere from Kamloops south especially. Enjoying some nice weather, enjoying some 15 to 20 degree days still. Don't get used to it, won't last very long. Broken towering cumulus layer. Here we have much similar things here as cold front is down south, but it's a little bit more occluded when you go a little further north because you got that warm front in behind here. Here's a low at 961, so very low, very strong, developed low. Towering cumulus in behind it as it's feeding in from the cold band that's up and around, and that's more or less the gist of the shape of our storm, what it's going to do. Now we're going to have a look in a minute about where it's going to go this week, see if there's anything in these charts that I want to say to you, at least nothing that I haven't already said already about where our lows are, how they're behaving. You know, we got kind of like an omega block going on almost, where most of the intercontinent is fairly high pressure still, and these two guys are more or less sitting like a block there, not wanting to let them do much or go anywhere. You know, the difference being we do have a little bit of low moving through Manitoba, a trough there, but that's not a huge weather story. It's more of like an anomaly within larger, an area of unhappiness within what is a larger program of, relatively stable weather through much of central Canada. And if you are flying your aircraft today, you're going to find turbulence as you move through northern Alberta, through middle Saskatchewan. Great place to get turbulence off in the middle of Saskatchewan. The same goes for eastern Canada. Looks like Montreal, maybe Quebec, and through into almost, into the Maritimes, into PEI maybe. You're going to have some 30-knot winds, it looks like there. You got 10-knot, 35 knots, 15 knots being measured, 140-knot jet streak pushing south. So that's going to be your collision that if you're flying an airplane today, you're going to go bam, 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 bam as you're going over that shit. And that's why right there here in our upper level analysis, you can see that this low is being blocked and it's sending a bit of a wonky streak that's more moving through Manitoba right now. So first it's giving you that turbulence if you're going through Alberta and Saskatchewan. You get to Manitoba, it's going to be a little bit of a weather maker there. However, it's more or less southern Ontario finding itself on the south end of that. Quebec and the Maritimes not, and our bigger low pressure system out there in Newfoundland is counterclockwise feeding this moisture, a lot of it coming from Milton and those resulting storms that were around Milton, preceding Milton, and that's looping back up and around in towards Greenland and you just get a better view of it as you come a little bit lower. That was 250 hectopascals we were at. Now we're at 500. So that's the jet stream. That's, 17,000 feet, 20,000 feet, something like that. You could, depending on what the air pressure actually is on that day. So this just gives us sort of an overlook. There's a lot of different kinds of maps I tend to look at that I don't necessarily show you in an episode, right? So I'm just giving you some examples of different things that I play around with here, and some of the various things that I have to know about in order to be really good at what I do. This isn't just a matter of looking at current conditions and guessing. I really pride myself on having a deep understanding of what the hell is actually going on out there. And I gotta tell you, I've been being driven nuts by people with their conspiracy theories and bullshit this week. My friend who's an archaeologist, she told me she hates talking. She doesn't like to tell people she's an archaeologist. I said, why not? She said, because every one of them says, oh, wow, what do you think of Indiana Jones? And I get it. Especially now. I get it. I get what drives you so crazy, okay? Because you're trying to focus on things that are like intellectually stimulating, where you're having to challenge your mind to grow, think, view the world in the larger picture, look at facts, look at data, come to great conclusions, and then people are just like, well, what about this thing that's not real? Huh? And it's like kicking you down to this place of intellectual ability that you are far above. And every 10 minutes I've had someone tagging me, messaging me, and even people who agree with me being like, hey, did you see this one? And it's like, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. I don't know how many times I can tell you that, yeah, we can cloud seed with limited effectiveness in a cold, if there's super cool water there. It will not work in a hurricane because hurricanes are not super cool. They're warm core storms. So you cannot cloud seed a hurricane and have any effectiveness, no matter what anyone says. And in order to cloud seed, you have to have moisture already there. There has to be a cloud, and you're just saying, well, cloud, can we make you fall? Can we make you fall? That's all we're trying to do. And with limited effectiveness, 30, 40% of the time, it seems to work. You can't make it work if there's no cloud there. It's like if you boil water on the pot of your stove and you watch the steam there, it's like, well, I can make a cloud in my own kitchen. But if you don't have water boiling in a pot, you cannot make a cloud. So I'm finding myself frustrated because I want to do more, right? I want to talk more, whether I want to go further, I want to go deeper, I want to bring you further and deeper, and I'm just stuck in the same conversations again and again and again, like a fucking Groundhog Day loophole of bullshit. So here is our coastal weather going on right now. As you can see, we got, there's our atmospheric river. It's just starting to touch Haida Gwaii right now. And as you come into the overnight hours, she's starting to slam pretty good into the Terrace, Stewart, Kitimat, all those areas under warning. I'm surprised there's no wind warnings for Haida Gwaii right now, seeing as we just saw a 100-kilometer-hour wind gust that was measured at one of the airports. Maybe Environment Canada will get their shit together and deal with that. I would think that a wind warning would definitely be, as you see, the ISO bars are straight delivery system here. Everything is going to go straight up into the coast, as it often does. This isn't weather patterns that we're not used to seeing. I mean, especially if you've been watching weather as long as I have, you'd be like, well, this is pretty normal. And even if we throw the word atmospheric river in there, atmospheric rivers are part of the normal. Same with mid-latitude cyclones, part of the North Pacific delivery system that we are so accustomed to seeing. And that happens all the time. Sunday, still pretty nice in southern BC. Going to have some pretty nice temperatures still there. So you're enjoying those warm days down there. Please enjoy them, because there's only so many left. The further north you are, the fewer, if there's any left for you at all, right? So I'm going to get out and cut some firewood right after this. So Monday, we're going to see weather hitting up into Bella Coola, Bella Bella, north end Port Hardy, north end Vancouver Island. Maybe it's going to eventually start hitting down towards Tofino. Maybe a good time for storm watching in Tofino will be Monday afternoon. If you happen to be on the island, you want to go see some big waves crashing on the beaches, as Frankie McDonald would say. Snow in northern BC, but there's a bit of a mix. Right below it's a bit of rain. So you can see where the red lines kind of stop and the blue lines begin. And somewhere along that, you're going to see a sort of a transition from snow into colder areas up there. The North Coast mountains, definitely, as you get in the taller mountains, they're seeing snow more and more. Then we're going to get into the coast mountains by the time we hit Monday evening. Late in the day, Monday at 15Z at least, to get some snowfall falling up, maybe in Pemberton, Whistler, places like that. You could be candidates to see some of that precipitation, maybe move through your area, if not hitting you directly somewhere not too far by. That's kind of how I like to forecast weather. I like to forecast weather by area, not by specific point. because you look at a specific point and you be like, well, at this specific point right here, is that going to snow that day? I could forecast that. Be like, well, this specific mountain is going to have snow, but then by the time you get to Monday, these maps will change just a little bit, and that specific point might be here, or maybe it'll be a bigger amount of snow or whatever. So I just like to say, these are sort of the general transition line there is going to more or less be, you get to the edge of the Coast Mountains somewhere near the Chilcotin, just going to hit a dry patch there, right? Maybe into the North Caribou, Prince George, and towards, could be even up to Williston, see some precipitation start to move through there on Monday. So we will be watching that Tuesday, overnight Monday into Tuesday. So something to watch for, but a lot of the interior not getting slammed that much yet, right? And this is sort of what we were looking at last episode. The storm kind of more or less punches, and then it really struggles to break through. So it kind of like undergoes a bit of a transformation process, and that transformation process gives us bands of weather that are a little bit more disorganized, and that's when maybe we'll start to see some of that precipitation move into southern BC. We're not looking at tons of it, but some for sure. You're going to see some Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday-ish. Go further north, going to see some snow up there in the Amanika as well. North Rockies, maybe a mix of. So we'll have a wait and see as to whether Powder King gets snow or rain there. But you look at those next two images, bam, we get into the nightfall at Wednesday. You start to see it's getting cooler at night, right? And that's about when it's going to start really settling, as that jet stream's going to be hitting south of us. Temperature's going to get cooler. You're going to see more snow falling at that time in places, right? More chance of it. And as you get into Thursday morning, still bands of snow moving down towards, I would say, Revelstoke is at risk on the Rogers Pass at times this week. So, unsettled week, and we will come back to this probably on Monday and have a real specific look at who and where and when. This is sort of your overview as to, what are we going to see this next week? How long is it going to last? And eventually that's going to form an Alberta Clipper move over there by Thursday. Snow on the backside where the cold air is, the warm air on the backside funneling up, and that's going to, or the front side going to funnel up and bring rain there. Fort Nelson, North Rockies, maybe seeing some snow at that time. But again, these specifics will change. Just gives you a picture of what it might look like when you get a little bit of snow on Thursday evening in southern BC and whatnot before it starts to clear out. But even when it clears out, you can see you got the red lines here. And what the red lines really are telling of is, like, does the lowest temperature that you see in a day go below zero? Well, no. Here, these red lines say no. But you look at here, a lot of places are going below zero at nighttime still in the interior BC. We're not getting those red lines, but there's a little bit Friday. So maybe a warm up by next weekend. We'll see, though. That's a ways out. And there is snow coming. So make sure you have your snow tires on. Make sure you're prepared for this next week, as our mid-latitude cyclone is going to put a lot of moisture up. If we go to the coast, now look at Sunday and have a look on the BC mid-coast, and you're seeing, like, already there taking some pretty spectacular rainfall totals, about 100 mils already by then. Jump ahead Monday, already seeing that now up and down the Coast Mountains, even the Caribou getting a little bit. Southeastern BC looking better and better. By the time we get to Tuesday evening, you'll have seen the Caribou looks like it's going to be drier, possibly. The interior, central Caribou, like 100 Mile House and places like that, maybe Williams Lake. Looks like you're going to be one of the drier places in the province as we come into through this next week. And look at that trail from this atmospheric river, right? So there's a lot of moisture to work with here. A lot of moisture. And already we got numbers like 169 here in this ECMWF model. Maybe GFS has a different idea. GFS says higher. ECMWF is really showing atmospheric river signature, whereas GFS is showing more rain. So they're both saying the same thing. Sections of BC getting snow. I think the north is settling into a winter period already. It's beginning to. The Rockies are starting to pile up. The Caribous are starting to pile up. We do have some snow already there. So we're probably seeing, if the snow can survive these couple days of warm weather, where is the snowpack in BC? Well, obviously, some of these big mountains, we're saying 400, and some of them are very, very tall mountains, and some of that is ice fields as well. And you look on the Alberta side here, these ice fields. But some of this is not ice fields, okay? For sure. We do have ice fields here in the Caribou Mountains, so some of this may be more than 5 meters. That's, to me, that's the ice fields more than with snow up and around it, mixing in with it as well. But some of this other areas, this is not ice fields right here. 50 centimeters up there in the big, tall Caribou Mountains. Here in Wells, there's a little bit of snow still on the ground. Most of it's starting to melt off. I think if you said 2 centimeters, there might be 5 in some places. There might be 0 in others. That's more or less how it's averaging out now in Wells. We're losing our snow fast today, and that's great. I really don't I want to get some firewood done. I'm not in the mood for it. And we do have snow on the ground up in central BC, in the north, I should say, up in the Amanika, there's 20 centimeters in that, more in that there, blah, blah, blah. So we're looking at temperatures coming down at nighttime as you get into Wednesday. We're still seeing some fairly nice weathers in the Caribou, 15, 16 degrees, not too bad down south. But you look at nighttime, and by the time you get to Thursday evening and you see there's a wider area of freezing temperatures being found, and temperatures are cool down to the central interior too, and go to Friday night, you can see a wider area of freezing. So we're coming into colder and colder weather, and you would expect that this time of year, I think, more or less. Okay, I've been talking for a while. That's your weather more or less for today. Enjoy it. Brand new atmospheric river coming, everybody. None of these forecasts are that alarming. Nothing that's going on here is unexplainable. Nothing that's going on here is out of the usual. Maybe that 961's a little, we were seeing storms that strong a month ago, and I was like, wow, that's kind of unusual. Now we're coming into that time period where I more and more expect to see Pacific storms that are dug in, strong, slamming the coast, atmospheric rivers. We've been in that pattern for quite a while, and the pattern continues more or less, right? It's going to be that kind of winter. I mean, you're watching how since the end of July, we've been getting pummeled by Pacific storms again and again and again, and that's really your indicator that we've entered a change in our overall pattern, that we're no longer in that El Nino pattern, which brings drier weather to the BC interior. Now we are certainly in that La Nina pattern. The cool water is starting to make its way to the North Pacific. It's having effect. It's mixing with warm water that's already there. It's pissing the weather off, and it's coming in with a vengeance, slamming hard into us here in the coast. We're going to have a big snow year, right? And that's great because we just had 2 bad fire seasons. This year, we got lucky, and it more or less played out how I said it would in my forecast this spring. But we got lucky that change manifested during the middle of the summer, and that we had what could have been a very bad fire season. But the year before, and we had an early start here this year because things were dry, because there wasn't snow, because there wasn't the moisture in the ground, because we had dry air, we had hot air, and we had windy days, and we had thunderstorms that helped start new fires. So it was almost all the fires in BC this year were caused by lightning, okay? Weather is the driver of so many things, and that's what we're here to talk about on the channel. Please hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. We'll see you next time, okay? Bye, everybody.